When it comes to train accidents and wrecks, it's often, well, a little too often, that it's the fault of human error. Sometimes, safety procedures and other things can't prevent disasters. This was the case 30 years ago. On September 19, 1993, Amtrak Sunset Limited departed Union Station in Los Angeles, California. The train was powered by 3 engines. In the lead was GE P40DC 819, which was very new to the railroad and had been in service less than 3 weeks. The P40DC was an upgrade from Amtrak's iconic F40P8, introduced back in 1976 to replace the unreliable SDP40Fs and aging F and E units. Following behind it were F40PHs 262 and 312, a baggage car, a dormitory car, and 7 passenger superliner cars made up the rest of the consist. The crew consisted of 47-year-old Billy Hall, 43-year-old Ernest Russ, and 39-year-old Mike Vinnett. The train departed from the station, headed towards New Orleans.
Meanwhile, a tugboat named Mavilla departed the WGN shipyard. It was piloted by Captain Andrew Stabler, who was accompanied by his co-pilot, Will Odom. At around 10 p.m., the train stopped in New Orleans, Louisiana. It had to have a broken air conditioner fixed. This would be the tiny detail that sealed their fates. By 2:30 a.m., the train reached Mobile Station, which was built in 1956 by the L&N Railroad. Meanwhile, the fog of the night had fully set in, and the undertrained pilot, Will Odom, on the Mavilla, who was taking over for the main pilot who was in bed at the time, was lost. He was about to make the turn that would change his life for the worse, as well as the lives of many on board the train. It departed Mobile at 2:33 a.m., headed towards its final stop in Miami, 750 miles away.
At 2:45 a.m., Odom accidentally pilots his barges into the Big Bayou Canot Bridge. He doesn't know what he's hit, but the boat isn't there until he backs away. The rails on the Canot Bridge were welded so they didn't break, but fatally bent 38 inches out of alignment. Hall and his crew were unaware of their impending doom. Eight minutes after the bridge was hit, disaster catches them by surprise. The train flies off the bridge going 17 miles an hour, catapulting 819-262 approximately 330 feet into the mud on the other side of the river, causing 819 to impale itself into the marsh, with 262 landing beside it, with its entire cab engulfed in the muddy swamp. 312 turned 90 degrees clockwise and landed in the water with the baggage car, dormitory car, and 2 passenger coaches flinging themselves into the water.
The second passenger coach completely submerged itself, with the other two coaches that partially submerged. The baggage car and third locomotive nearby. Fuel tanks and 3 engines ruptured, and burning fuel landed in the river, setting the cars on fire and brutally burning at least 10 people alive. There were no roads to the accident site, and nobody knew where the train was, so rescue was difficult. There was another problem: snakes and alligators. The passengers either had to stay with their burning train or face the other dangers. Coast Guard and other help wouldn't arrive until 4:25 a.m. Shortly after the accident, the Marville pulled up to the wreckage and helped 17 people out of the water. Sadly, others weren't so lucky. The assistant conductor called 911.
Yes, listen, this is Amtrak train supervisor. We're on the Mobile River. The bridge is going up. We got cars burning, people in the river. Can't swim. We need help. Any kind of help you can get down here.
Come along with me, sir.
Yes.
Okay, you with the Amtrak train?
Yes, ma'am. I'm the supervisor on board. We're on the Mobile River. We got cars burning. They're over the bridges. There's people in the water. We're trying to help them. We need all kind of help. Yes, ma'am. We need help.
Taxi train, I got people in the water, I got cars on fire, it's on the river. You need all the emergency vehicles that you can get to.
So you got a derailment with people in the water.
That's right.
As the sunlight brightened up the horizon, all was revealed. One of the coaches had burned from the inside out, still partially submerged in a swamp. The fourth car stopped halfway on the bridge and remained there. Cars behind it stayed on the rails. Sadly, passengers in the cars in front were not as lucky. Most deaths weren't from the impact, but from drowning, among other things. The 3 crew members in 819 died, suffocating from the cab filling with hundreds of pounds of mud. 42 passengers and 2 other crew members were killed, and over 100 people were injured in what was to be the worst disaster in Amtrak's history. But the Sunset Limited is a premier coast-to-coast passenger train. How could this happen? Was it sabotage? Was it something nobody knew? And why was there a huge tugboat in the Canot? The puzzle pieces were close together and nobody knew. The NTSB jumped on the case and began an investigation. On September 24, 819 was hoisted from the swamp. They found markings on the nose and body of the engine, which eventually led to another finding. The lead engine had hit the outside of the bridge before derailing. But how had it hit the outside? Everybody thought the bridge had collapsed before the train arrived. What they found next was shocking. Matching marks were found at the concrete piers and the 2 left barges on the Marvilla. That meant only one thing. The Marvilla had hit the bridge minutes before the Sunset Limited made it there. But it was a light blow, and such a bridge should have held up. That was until they discovered plans for the bridge dating back to 1909. The bridge was 3 sections. On one side of the bank, there was a steel truss bridge. On the other side, there was 192 feet of track on a wooden truss. The middle section was a 140-foot-long steel girder. The middle was obliterated in the crash. They found something else that was surprising. The middle section was originally designed to be a sling bridge. A sling bridge is a bridge designed to pivot so that river traffic can pass through. It was never completed, so the big Bayou Canot was closed off to river traffic. That meant the bridge was unfinished for over 80 years. The wheels and other gears required to allow the bridge to pivot were never installed. On top of that, the bridge was never bolted into place. The girder simply rested on top of the truss bridge pier, so when the Marvilla ran into the bridge, it was jolted, just enough to displace it. There was a signal attached to a track circuit system that should have displayed red if the track broke. The train's event recorder indicated that the signal remained green as the train passed. Was there something wrong with the circuit system? Why didn't it indicate the track broke? As they would find out, it didn't. Due to it being welded rail, it simply bent, which wasn't enough to break the circuit. After a derailment in Utah in 1979 due to bent track, there's a recommendation for a system that would prevent trains from proceeding even if the track was just bent out of alignment. It was decided the benefits from the system would be outweighed by the cost. It was never put into place and could have prevented the entire accident. Odom was never properly trained to read radar, so he thought the bridge was another tugboat. It was so foggy he couldn't see before it was too late to stop. He was not blamed for the accident, but surrendered his license and never operated a boat since. Odom sadly drank himself to death in 2013. He was 55. Stabler died at the age of 65 sometime after the accident. In the end, as most people would have guessed, All 3 locomotives, the baggage car, and presumably all of the cars that went into the river, were damaged beyond repair and scrapped. 819 will carry the unfortunate title of being the first P-40DC, or the Genesis series in general, to be scrapped. The P-40s had only been introduced that year, so it's surprising one had already been wrecked. 11 days after the accident, the bridge of the Bayou was replaced with a fixed girder. Today, a memorial stands in memory of those who lost their lives that morning. Ever since the accident, there have been some bad accidents involving Amtrak, but there hasn't been one as bad since.